Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And if you needed any more evidence that Rings of Power, the absolute abomination that Amazon has been so very arrogant and egotistical about using the name of the great J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings to apply to it and taking characters from his great vast wealth of mythology and a wonderful universe that he built painstakingly over decades of his life and adding to it, and of course, and clarifying so many things that we did not know about this. Yes, even with all of that backstory and information out there, Amazon has decided to make it spend billions of dollars on a show that is nothing more than a facsimile and a absolute fake abomination and Lord of the Rings in name only, because this show is absolutely insane. And for any of you out there, any of you detractors out there said, well, the show wasn't that bad, you just need to give it a chance, they're going to be more loyal to the source material in the second season. They said so. The showrunners and the writers, the actors and everybody in the marketing said that they were going to be more loyal to the source material. If any of you out there were foolish enough to absolutely believe that, well, boys and girls, not only do I have evidence to once again contradict and prove that everyone involved with this show that has said that they had any desire whatsoever to be loyal to the source material is nothing more than a bunch of liars, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona that I would like to sell you because, ladies and gentlemen, the latest evidence of that is the Lord of the Rings of Power actress Morford Clark claims Galadriel is cosmically connected to Sauron. Yes, boys and girls, the love story that they hinted at in the very first season of Galadriel, a character who obviously knew pretty much from the very beginning that Sauron was a dirtbag scumbag in all of his forms out there by all the great Tolkien's works we've had. No, boys and girls, she's falling in love with the bad guy, and the only reason he went down the dark path is it's all her fault. Yes, besides the fact that this is literally in Galadriel in name only, because where is her husband, where is her daughter, and where is everybody else that should make it to where she doesn't feel lonely in this world? No, all of that is completely gone and thrown out the way for nothing more than a girl boss knockoff, absolute abomination, and honestly, it's an insult to Tumblr fan fiction out there to even call that this, but that's exactly what this is, boys and girls, absolute abomination of a fan fiction that does nothing more than discredit and disrespects the great works of J.R.R. Tolkien, and today we are going to prove even more of that to you. So we're going to get this article from thatparkplace.com, give you all of the primary examples of from the horse's mouth itself, saying that they understand and know nothing about the great works of Tolkien or his characters, nor do they care in any way, shape, or form. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because boys and girls, we're increasing all the way almost to 1,300, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below if you're one of those people out there who loved season 1 of Rings of Power, and I'm nothing more than a racist and sexist who's just hating on it for the hate on it. Or if you're an actual Tolkien fan out there who understands exactly what kind of abomination this is, and you certainly won't be tuning into season 2 any more than you or the vast majority of people out there tuned into season 1. So from our dear sweet John F. Trent over at That Park Place, Morford Clark, the actress who plays Galadriel, claims that her character is cosmically connected to Sauron in the Lord of the Rings of Power. Speaking with Games Radar, one of those legacy simp media organizations that we talk about and decry around here all the time, yes, Clark stated she agreed with Charlie Vickers' assertion that Galadriel and Sauron share a psychic connection. I'd agree with it. I think there is. They're both magical, powerful beings, and I think there's something lonely to existing in that kind of sphere that they're both in. Well, Galadriel wouldn't be lonely in this current age that she's in, according to the J.R.R. Tolkien's own timeline, because she's married and has a daughter. That's why. She wouldn't be able to have any kind of silly little yearning for Sauron, the bad guy. Oh, the dashingly handsome bad guy. Oh, that bad boy that all of you weirdos out there, the personification of evil inside of Lord of the Rings' own universe out there. No, she wouldn't be able to do that, because if you had any actual desire whatsoever to represent a proper version of Tolkien, like you said you were going to, we're going to be more accurate in the second season, you would have her husband and her daughter there. But of course, you can't show a strong female out there because then she would have a good, loving relationship. Well, no. She can't be held back by a man because she's a wife and a mother. No, that takes away her advocacy. That we can't have. Because God forbid you can be a strong female and also be a loving wife and mother, because that is something that is completely and totally out of the realm of possibilities in any of these people's minds out there, because of course they were led the lie of feminism that believes you can only be a strong, independent woman if you need no man and don't have a family. All of that can wait till later, until you're in your 40s and alone with cats. Yeah, how's that work out? It's literally the exact same kind of mentality that gave us She-Hulk, boys and girls. I think there's something lonely to existing in that kind of sphere that they're both in, which Galadriel should not be lonely at this point. But yeah, there's some sort of cosmic connection, what I heard Charlie mention a few times. I was like, nice, I like that. Yeah, and it'll go on for thousands and thousands of years. Yes, essentially they are trying to rewrite what you saw in the Lord of the Rings movies, and of course what you read about in the books, and including The Hobbit, where this character is clearly completely and totally opposed to this. But no. Even in the modern ones, the ones they've seen, well, Galadriel's still holding a longing in her heart for Sauron and what could have been. This is disgusting and this is disrespectful, and once again shows you that they don't know jack about Tolkien in any way, shape, or form, and they're literally just a bunch of jackwagons. Vickers, who plays Sauron, informed Games Radar at San Diego Comic-Con in July of this theory. I think they're connected, if not by proximity, then by their psyche. Oh yes, they're in touch on a spiritual and emotional level. They're higher beings, so I'm sure it runs deeper than being in the same place together. I think the fact that when she turns him down at the end of season 1, it pisses him off quite a bit. I'd be lying if I'd say there wasn't a part of him that thinks, I can get her to join me. Oh yes, gone is the Sauron that flat out knew that Galadriel would be his biggest obstacle. No. Now he's her love interest that he must turn to the dark side so she can be with him, and it's only because she didn't understand that he was actually trying to be good and not be a bad guy anymore. And it's all her fault, and she'll always know that. Because Clark expanded on the connection, telling the outlet, it's terrible to have misjudged someone as Galadriel did with him. Yes, boys and girls, it is now, according to them, all Galadriel's fault that Sauron literally tried to devastate and destroy all of Middle-earth. Yes, he's just a bad boy that was misunderstood. You Sauron simps are disgusting, and you need to go back to Tumblr where you all properly belong. So I think this also kind of binds her to him, because she doesn't make mistakes like that, and he'll forever be the person who deceived her and tricked her. Oh, yeah, she misjudged him. Oh, so there's redemption. So, of course, San Hellar, who plays Ardar in Season 2, also commented on the relationship of Galadriel and Sauron. I think there's something really interesting about the fact that even though she knows now that Halbrand is Sauron, there's a sense of loss there. She sort of is a hole where Halbrand once was, even though she was deceived. It's really kind of twisted, dark, and interesting. You know what should be filling her hole? Her husband! That's who should be filling her hole, emotionally and literally, because, that's how children are made. The daughter that is missing from this story as well. So if the first season was not abundantly clear that the story clearly has nothing to do with The Lord of the Rings as written by Tolkien, the entire show is just using the name of The Lord of the Rings and the names of the characters to tell a completely different story. In Tolkien's Legendarium, Galadriel is not deceived by Sauron, and she certainly has no romantic feelings from him or even a cosmic connection to him. She is married to Celebrian, and the two have a daughter, Celebrian. Christopher Tolkien explained in The Unfinished Tales, Sauron endeavored to keep distinct his two sides, enemy and tempter. When he came along to Noldor, he adopted a spacious form. Kind of the high elf kind of thing. The note goes on to say that Galadriel was not deceived, saying that this Aldril was not in the train of all in the Valinor, but this is not decisive because Elsewhere in the Unfinished Tales, Tolkien wrote, talking about Sauron, he perceived at once that Galadriel would be his chief adversary and obstacle, and he had down therefore to placate her, bearing her scorn with outward patience and courtesy. She absolutely despised him from the very beginning and smelled the stink all over this guy. It's one of those things that just goes on to be made very, very obvious to go on and go forward with, because now, I mean, give it time. I could imagine going forward with this if they actually end up making it to a third season, because apparently they're locked in for 5 seasons of this nonsense. We will actually see the descendants of Aragorn actually be, or of our dear sweet Galadriel actually be Sauron's person, which of course ends up leading to Arwen, who's supposed to marry Aragorn. Yes, boys and girls, that's the actual kind of abomination and disrespect that this series, Rings of Power, and Amazon, J.P. Tane, and everybody else involved with this nonsense is doing. And guess what? By the actors and actresses doubling down by all this kind of nonsense and saying that, oh, it's just a bunch of racists and sexists who are hating on the show, then guess what? They deserve as much of the scorn as everyone else does for disrespecting the great Roman Catholic Professor J.R.R. Tolkien's body of work with this absolute abomination. Rings of Power is nothing more than Lord of the Rings in name only. Is it a bastardization and an abomination of the great and expansive works of J.R.R. Tolkien? And guess what? That's what it was always going to be right from the beginning. This is nothing more than a woke, girl boss, nonsense story using the name of Lord of the Rings to try to trick a bunch of fans and audience members into watching an absolute horrendously bad written show on top of it all, boys and girls. But guess what? Just like season 1 failed, season 2 will fail even harder. And honestly, I'm here to document the disastrous dumpster fire of all things Amazon Rings of Power, because it's certainly not Lord of the Rings. And guess what? As usual, the fans and the audience are smarter than all of you. We smell your stink, and you're going to get exactly what you deserve. Burn, Amazon, burn. Your Rings of Power show is an abomination. The fans know it, and you're going to get exactly what you deserve. Enjoy watching billions of dollars burn up in flames. We certainly will.